how to describe a bar chart for IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. Let's do this. Summarize and describe the following information. This is a chocolate bar chart and I'll describe it. The following bar chart represents Ben's consumption of chocolate over a 5-minute period. This one is really tasty, but it doesn't fill you up. This one is similar, and it's quite cheap as well. Move on. Hi there, my name is Ben Worthington. In this video we're going to look at, in a very detailed fashion, we're going to look at how to write a high-scoring IELTS Academic Task 1 answer. Okay, we're going to look at it from a very different viewpoint. We're going to look at it from a viewpoint of making the examiner happy, satisfying what's in the band requirements, and hopefully scoring high, passing the exam and saying goodbye to IELTS. So it's a slightly different video. I'm going to go into more detail, but first of all, I'm going to tell you the sentences that I recommend you start to master so you can incorporate them into your writing. Okay? These sentences are the superlative. Master this, okay? Master it, dominate it, learn the rules, write out 1,000,000 sentences, get it checked, okay? The superlative, it's essential to dominate, not to learn it, to dominate that sentence structure, that grammatical point. The next one, learn how to make comparisons. Learn how to say whereas, while, okay, for those sections. The next part is learn how to group the data. That's not too bad, just look for similarities. It's not really a language skill, that's another story. Next one, learn how to use the sentence respectively, so we can make a mini list, all right? The next point, learn how to describe the data in an advanced fashion, okay? This means like, let's see, I don't know, pollution increased, pollution increased tenfold, or pollution practically doubled over the 5-year period, okay? Practically doubled, it's quite an emphatic way of saying it, or it's quite a descriptive way. Instead of just going, pollution jumped from 20 to 40. If I say practically doubled, shows the examiner that I am a master of IELTS Academic Task 1. Alright, let's carry on. So the other sentences that we need to know is also how to just make a mini list as well. Okay, I'm not a big fan of making lists in this part of the exam, but making a list help you describe the data and make it go a little bit smoother. Okay, so in the video we're going to look at all of those points in much more detail. And trust me, do the tutorial, follow it all the way through the end, okay? Even if you want, make a description yourself of the bar chart we're going to look at. Yeah, like I've said 1,000,001 times before, you cannot learn to ride a bike in a classroom. Take action, write it down, grab a pen, start studying, and pass IELTS. Simple as. Okay, let's go. Have a look at this graph, okay, and remember that the process, we've already got 2 sentences accounted for, and we've got to find 8 sentences, more or less, over which we're going to, in which we're going to use those structures that we talked about a few minutes ago. Now, first of all, we're going to try and choose a way to organize the data. Now, the most logical thing would be to do a whole paragraph about this, a whole paragraph about this, and a whole paragraph about this group. That's okay, and it's chronologically organized. there is at least some organization there. However, we're going to miss an opportunity to make some comparisons. Okay, so what I would do is make a small compromise and maybe just choose these two groups to talk about first. Okay, and we've got a good comparison there, and then use that all the way, not all the way through, but at least for the first one and for probably the second one. So let's just have a quick look. Now, I did the first sentence, which is just a description. It's not the story. It's a plain description of what there is there. Okay, and as well you can see different life periods in the title. I used at 3 distinct age groups. Okay, just to avoid using the same words and the same vocabulary as in the title, because we can't get any points if we do that. Now then, so immediately I go for clarity, and I'm starting with subject. Dairy for the 0 to 24 age group is the highest source of calories. And as I said before, we've got the superlative there, and we're going subject, verb, object. Okay, dairy, straight in there, 2 feet, straight in, bang. Okay, superlative, done. The other categories each represented about 20% each. Now, you can see before that I wanted to group my data. So this is a perfect group. It's roughly similar, and I can just bunch it together. Okay? Because what happens, what the usual tendency is to group that data, well, not to group that data, but to list it, which is horrible, and go through. Meat represented 20%, pulses represented 18%, vegetables represented 20%, and that's just boring. Now, the other part, okay, and then I am going through it chronologically, okay, but I'm not going through it in a listed fashion. Once again, I've followed, actually no, I've used started with dairy again, but I've used the fancy sentence saying it fell to around a quarter, which is roughly the case there, okay, and meat became the main source of calories, okay. Another way to show, like, it's not a superlative, but it's showing you the main, that's the most popular one, okay. So I'm going for the key points in the data here, okay. And here I do make a list afterwards, okay, but just because I want to use the respectively sentence, the famous respectively sentences, okay. And once again, I start with pulses, and I don't start with pulses, but I start with the most popular, okay. I start with the largest, and this is the way it's kind of organized. Although I have gone like this, I haven't done a list from here to here, from here to here. I've always started with the most significant, okay. And also you'll see there is the comparison there, okay, which I managed to squeeze in. And let's see, and also there's another fancy sentence here, okay, increased 6-fold, okay. And once again you can see I'm starting with the subject, verb, object, okay, bang, 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 and it's clear, it's crystal clear that, okay. And then, where is it now? Okay, finishing off. Here I just added this sentence because when I did the word count afterwards, I was about 130 words, so I added this. The over 50 group shows the most marked preference out of all the groups, and also confirms the gradual decline in vegetable consumption as males become older. Okay, so what I'm saying is I'm showing the examiner that I have realized that the over 50 group is the extreme, is the largest out of all of them, and it also confirms this general mini trend within the data of vegetables slowly decreasing. Okay, and then now I have the overall sentence, the famous one. Overall, it is clear that each age group has a clear favourite. Perhaps now, if I'm just looking at it again, I would delete that because it says clear twice, which isn't good. Okay, as a market I've already used, and say overall it is obvious, maybe. Anyway, I'll change that another time. It varies depending on age. Okay, and I haven't, what usually happens, I haven't said 0 to 24 meat, 25 to 49 dairy. I haven't repeated what I've already said here. I've just said there's a clear favourite, and I've also said vegetables are consistently amongst the least popular regardless of age. Okay, and that's also true. Not only are they declining, but they are usually amongst, not the least, but amongst the least popular. Here they're amongst the bottom two, here they're in the bottom two, and here is the lowest. So just mini data points that you can include. Let's just see. So yep, I described it in an advanced fashion, talking about the sixfold. I used the respectively. I did it in a normal fashion as well, just making a little list here, and slightly less than dairy, 15. I've done the exceptions and the pattern. Okay, vegetables there is the exception, and there's also a mini pattern, but the main pattern was they have a clear favourite. Okay, grouping the data points. Here we did that straight away, and superlative all the way through. The highest, sure I've got the lowest as well somewhere. Okay, consistently the least, similar. So yeah, all the way through, 156 words. But the main point here, the main lesson, is selecting the information.